Do you ever feel like you just don't have enough? You just don't have what it takes. You've just had it up to here and you just need a break. I don't know whether it's a stressful job or a difficult child, or maybe it's exam season. You're just like, if I have to do one more paper, I'm just gonna scream. If you've ever been in that situation, then the thought of going on a holiday, of taking some time out, of being on vacation is something that sometimes can just get you through the most difficult times. Well, Jesus and his disciples had a situation like that. They had been going non-stop, preaching and teaching and healing and helping and doing all these amazing things, but it's draining. It can be draining helping other people. We sometimes glamorize it, but giving of yourself to others, sometimes it can leave you with nothing less. And so Jesus and his disciples decided, let's go away. So they decided, let's get in the boat. We're just going to cross to the other side of the lake. We're going to spend some wonderful time. Just us, just the fellas, just the guys, catch some fish, tell some stories, sleep in late, all of those wonderful things. Well, wouldn't you know it? As soon as they head off, someone takes a picture, or I don't know, they see their new location on Facebook and they decide, oh, Jesus is going here. And so a crowd follows Jesus. Not only do they follow them, they beat Jesus and the disciples to the other side of the lake. I guess they were taking a leisurely cruise in the boat, not really trying to make up much time. And so when they arrive on the other shore, they are greeted by these thousands of people chanting his name, Jesus, Jesus, wow, the disciple, oh, look, it's Andrew. And just, and they put their game face on as they would do. And Jesus starts teaching. But you can imagine the disciples in their heart are just thinking, oh man, we didn't even get a break. But the story here in Mark's gospel, there's a very interesting line here in chapter 6. When Jesus landed and saw a large crowd, he had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd. So he began teaching them many things. The amazing thing about Jesus is that even when he's tired, he's still compassionate. I have to be really honest. When I get tired, when I'm hungry, I'm not very compassionate. I can be grumpy, I can be short-tempered, but Jesus is the opposite. When he sees people in need, he just can't help himself. He has to do something to help. And so he's teaching and teaching, and apparently the teaching goes on for a while, and the disciples start to become concerned that these people have had no food. They've traveled a long distance and they're in this remote area. And so they say to Jesus, listen, we need to wrap this up so that they can go home and get some food. And then Jesus says something really seemingly foolish, something very counterintuitive. By this time it was late in the day, so the disciples came to him. This is a remote place, they said, and it's already late. Send the people away so they can go to the surrounding countryside and villages and buy themselves something to eat. But he answered, you give them something to eat. What? I mean, how can we give them something to eat? We don't have anything ourselves. We came on this trip to escape those people. We didn't bring any supplies. We didn't bring any packed lunches. We have nothing. And so the disciples start scrabbling around. They start thinking, and someone says out loud, that would take more than a half year's wages. There were 5,000 men here, and with women and children, 15 or 20,000 people. And so someone's done the calculations really quickly and said, there is no way the budget can stretch to that. Even if we had the money, even if we wanted to, it's going to take more than half a year's wages just to feed these people for one meal. So Jesus asks them, how many loaves do you have? Go and see. Now, I have to be honest, if I was a disciple at that point, I'd have been like, you know what, Jesus, I know you're the Messiah and all that, but really, we're going to look around now and try to find some bread? That's not a very sensible suggestion at this crisis moment. So they went around, and it says, and they find 5 loaves and 2 small fish. And you can imagine that, I don't know who it was, maybe it was Peter, maybe it was Andrew, maybe it was one of the quiet ones, Thomas, had been storing this in their back pocket just in case, because they know how these things go. You go with Jesus and then next thing you know, it's gone longer. They brought a little food with them. Well, they find this food and they're thinking, oh man, okay, they give it to Jesus and something amazing happens. Jesus directs the people to sit down on the grass in different groups. Then he takes this small amount of food, he gives thanks, starts tearing it into pieces, and then he gives it to the disciples to give it to the people. Now, I'm trying to imagine being one of those disciples, seeing food that should have been for you, being torn into pieces by Jesus, and then it's given to you not to eat, but to give to other people. And you're just looking at this crowd of thousands, you're like, there is no way this is gonna feed everyone. So you study that first, okay, you give it to the first person, and you come back, you give it to the next person, and maybe in your mind, you're just talking to yourself, I don't know why Jesus lets himself be taken advantage of. We're always in this situation. I wanna have a talk with him once this is all over. But then after a while, you realize, wait, I've given this to 10, 15 people, and every time I come back, there's more to share. And within a few minutes, you realize, wait a minute, we've given out way more than we had in the first place. And so I don't know how long it takes to serve 15,000 people, but eventually they serve this entire crowd. This whole time, you must imagine, they were hungry, they were tired, but they were serving others. And in serving others, they had more themselves. And so at the end of the whole thing, Jesus says, okay, everyone's eaten. Now, disciples, I want you to go ahead and collect all the leftovers. And the amazing thing is that the leftovers were more than what they started with. After they gave everything they had, they ended up with more than what they started with. I believe that this is the lesson that Jesus was trying to teach his friends. That with God, things work differently to how they work with the bank or in our lives. Usually when you don't have anything, then that's it, you're out. But with God, when you give even the little that you have to help others, somehow he replenishes it. I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be in finances, that if you just give away your money, a check's going to come in the mail. But there is no joy like the joy of helping somebody else. There is no peace that you have like when you are doing something that makes a difference, not just making money, not just being a success, but when you're actually changing a life. There is nothing like that. Today I was in the barber and I was listening to the barber tell a story. He is a person who he grew up in foster care. He never knew his parents. He originally comes from Gambia, but he is a barber here in this country, and I'm sure that barbers don't get millions, but with the little that he has, he buys food for young people in his village. He sends home deodorant and different things, and he lives his life to make a difference. And I'm sure that because of what he does, his life is so much fuller than it would have been if he just kept the little that he felt like he had and spent it on himself. Friends, there is this amazing reality that when you give, actually you receive so much more. May your life be like those disciples, that when you don't have much, you find the strength to have compassion for those who have even less than you. May you discover that in giving to Jesus, in being used by Jesus to serve others, that you end up with more than you had in the first place. And may you come to follow God's own fool, for only the fools can really tell. Believe the unbelievable. Come be a fool as well.